Hi, my name is Nurfai Gadayana.
Hi! Okay, now let's start. Let's look at my group's short story. The short story that my group got is The Bet. It is authored by Anton Chekhov. Now let's look at the information together. The Bet was written in 1889 by Russian literary giant Anton Chekhov. This means the short story The Bet was written in the year 1889 by Anton Chekhov, who is also considered one of the greatest writers in Russian literature. Chekhov was known for his mastery of short stories and plays, often exploring human nature and moral dilemmas. Chekhov was famous for his writing powerful short stories and plays. His words often look deeply into how people think, feel, and make difficult choices about right and wrong. The Bet was also inspired by philosophical debates at the time, especially around capital punishment and life imprisonment. The story was influenced by real discussion happening back then, whether it's better to sentence someone to death or to keep them in prison for life. Chekhov used this debate as the starting point of his short story. This story reflects Chekhov's interest in the philosophical effects of isolation, the value of knowledge, and the emptiness of materialism. In The Bet, Chekhov shows how being alone for a long time changed a person's mind and soul. He also highlights how learning and wisdom can be more meaningful than money, and how chasing wealth can feel empty at the end.
That's all from me. Now I'm going to pass it to the next person.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Alia Hanan Jasmine binti Alzanizam and my ID number is PJJ240710673. Today I will be explaining about the plot of our story, which is The Bet by Anton Chekhov. The story begins at a party where a banker and a lawyer get into a heated argument. They are debating about which is more human, the death penalty or the life imprisonment. The banker insists that death is more merciful because it ends suffering quickly. Meanwhile, the young lawyer argues that life is always better than death, even if it means spending years in prison. This argument gets so intense that they two decided to make a bet. The banker wagers 2 million rubles that the lawyer cannot stay in a solitary confinement for 15 years. The lawyer accepts, confident that he can endure it. At first, life in confinement is very difficult for the lawyer. He is restless and frustrated, but over the years, something interesting happens. He devotes himself to books. He studies languages, philosophy, science, literature, even religion. Slowly, he grows wiser, more spiritual, and detached from material pleasures. Meanwhile, time changes the banker as well. He loses much of his fortune through bad investments and reckless spending. By the end of the 15 years, he realizes that paying the 2 million rubles will ruin him. He becomes desperate. On the final night, just hours before the bet would end, the banker sneaks into the lawyer's cell with the intent to kill him. But what he finds changes everything. On the desk is a letter written by the lawyer. In it, the lawyer explains that he has come to despise money, wealth, and material possessions. He says they are worthless compared to knowledge and inner freedom. To prove this, he declares that he will live 5 hours before the 15 years are over, thus giving up the prize money. Now, I will be explaining about the free text triangle of this story. Here is the simple image of free text triangle. The first one is exposition. The banker and the lawyer argue at a party about which one is better humanly, death penalty or life imprisonment. And they make the bet. Second one is rising action. The lawyer begins his imprisonment. Over the years, he reads, studies, and reflects deeply about inner freedom. Meanwhile, the banker's fortune declines. He becomes very poor. The third one is climax. Near the end of the 15 years, the banker panics because he realizes that he can't afford to pay the 2 million rubles that he bet with the lawyer. Therefore, he decided to sneak in to possibly kill the lawyer. But instead, he finds the lawyer's letter renouncing the bet. Next, fourth, is falling action. The banker realizes the lawyer has given up all material desires and will leave early. The last one is resolution. The lawyer leaves 5 hours before winning, forfeiting the money. The banker feels relief, but also shame. And that's all from me. I will pass it to the next member. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ilyas Muzaffar bin Harman. ID number BGJ240711546. Today, for this presentation, I will be presenting about settings, characters, and characteristics. So, what is the setting of the story? The setting takes place in a wealthy banker's house and an insulated lodge on his property in the 19th century Russia. So think of the idea here is probably cold and some light in there. The lodge is where a man lives alone for 15 years. 15 years of isolation. Think about it. That would make anyone crazy. So we have two characters in this story, which the first being the banker. His characteristic is that he is rich, desperate, and greedy. The banker is a rich old man who loves money, which reminds me of Scrooge McDuck. He's proud and quick to make a bet, but over 15 years he loses his fortune. He becomes greedy and desperate and even plans to kill the lawyer to avoid paying the money. He's trying to evade the debt, the possible debt that he has, which is a crime to me. So a similar character that everyone might know is King Midas. So who is King Midas if you do not know? King Midas is a legend in ancient Rome or Greece. I don't remember much, but his wish is for everything he touches to be gold, which sounds rich and desperate, rich and greedy already. But that wish backfired because everything he touches, man, animal, food, and even anything that's useful to him becomes gold, which basically meant he made himself starve to death. Second of the character is called the lawyer. His characteristic is that he is smart, young, wise, and ascetic. So what is ascetic, you may ask? Ascetic is basically he rejects all and any worldly possession. So continuing, the lawyer is a young, smart man who is passionate about his beliefs. He agrees to live alone for 15 years to win the bet. During this time, he reads many books and gains great wisdom. He also realizes that money and materialistic things are worthless, so he abandons them all. He sees very little to no value in them. In the end, he becomes wise and rejects all of it, which I already said before, choosing to give up the money and his freedom. A popular character to help you understand would be Forrest Gump. We all know the story of Forrest Gump. It's a classic movie. While he is surprisingly wealthy from his shrimp boat and apple investments, Forrest maintains a simple, frugal lifestyle, embodying a form of affluent asceticism. So that's all from me. Goodbye.
Hi, my name is Nur Intina Madhya binti Umar. My ID student is BGJ 2407 HSL109407. So right now, I'm going to briefly introduce the story written by Anton Chekhov. The title is The Bet. Okay, basically there's two characters in the story. The first one is the lawyer and the second one is the banker. So they argue whether death penalty or life imprisonment more human. So this led to the famous bet that actually changed their whole life after that decision. So from the story, the banker believed that the death is better than life imprisonment while the lawyer disagreed. So since they both disagreed with each other, they decided to make the bet. So based on the story, the banker believed that death is better than life imprisonment. So he come up with the idea to make the bet. He challenged the lawyer if he can isolate himself for 15 years, he will receive 2 million rubles. So that's why the story title is The Bet, because they make this bet. So that scenario represents the external conflict, which is the conflict between the banker and the lawyer. So let's continue on internal conflict. Internal conflict is occur between the character and their own self. For example, the lawyer starts to struggle with boredom and loneliness. He been study philosophy, literature, and religion, so it's made him realize that money is actually meaningless. On the other hand, the banker feels the guilt and filled with anxiety. He fears, he's scared that he might losing his wealth to the lawyer because 2 million rubles is a huge amount. So he even considered to murder the lawyer to end this bet, so he won't lose this bet. Now let's look at the point of view of the story. It's me, the third person, which is the narrator, who is not the character but can feel the both emotion and thought of the character. For example, narrator can see the spiritual growth in the lawyer and also realizing the fear and guilt the banker felt. For example, the lawyer rejects the material wealth and rather focus on the spiritual truth. Meanwhile, the banker regrets talking to the lawyer and hate the bet itself. So it's clear that the banker fears losing his wealth while the lawyer learns that work is more than riches. So what is the value of life? Wealth or freedom? So, do you get it? I will pass to the next member.
Alright, thank you, Lina. Now let's look at the theme. The first theme is the value of human life and material wealth. In the bet, Anton Chekhov explores the difference between the worth of human life and the value of money. The story begins with a banker who arrogantly bets 2 million rubles to prove that life imprisonment is worse than death. A young lawyer accepts the challenge and agrees to spend 15 years in complete isolation. It's harsh, but that's what they did. During this time, the lawyer reads wildly and grows wiser over the time and realizes that material wealth is meaningless compared to knowledge, freedom, and inner peace. In the end, he chose to walk away from the money, and this shows that life and wisdom are far more valuable than riches. Now, the second theme is the futility of materialism. In the beginning of the story, both the banker and the lawyer are driven by selfish desire. The banker shows off his money, and the lawyer accepts the bet because he wants to become rich. But after spending many years alone and learning from books, the lawyer changed. He realized that money and luxury don't bring true happiness. In the end, he gives up the 2 million rubles, proving that material things are not important. This story teaches us that real happiness comes from wisdom, personal growth, and spiritual understanding, not from wealth. The third theme is transformation through knowledge. In the bet, one of the strongest themes is how the lawyer changes through learning. During his 15 years of isolation, he reads many books and learned about art, science, and philosophy, and also religion. These studies help him grow wiser and understand that money and success doesn't last. By the end of the story, he no longer cares about wealth or luxury. Instead, he values truth, wisdom, and spiritual freedom. When he walks away from the money, it shows that he has grown as a person and found something more meaningful than the riches.
That's all for me. Now I'm going to pass it to the next person.
Hello guys, I'm Nur Alia Sofia. I would like to present to you the literary device in back. We have a few literary devices in back. The first one is irony. We have two irony in literary device. The first one is situational irony, which is the banker once rich and is nearly bankrupt when it's time to pay. Okay, the second one is dramatic irony, which is the banker plans to kill the lawyer, but the lawyer has already decided to renounce the prize. Okay, the second literary device in bed is symbolism. First is book, symbolize knowledge, enlightenment, and escape from reality. Okay, the second one is the cell, which is to represent both imprisonment and a path to inner freedom. The last one, symbolism, is money, 2 million rubles, which is symbolize greed, vanity, and false values. Okay, the third one, literary device in bed, is foreshadowing, which is early hints that voluntary imprisonment will poison the lawyer. Foreshadow his eventual spiritual rejection of worldly life. Okay, move to the next slide. Here is another few literary device in bed. Okay, the next one is imagery, which is Chekhov used vivid descriptions of seasons, the prisoner's decayed body, and the beauty in books to appeal the sense. The next literary device is allusion, reference to the Bible, philosophy, literature, and sign highlight the lawyer intellectual journey. Okay, the next one is tone in mood and mood. Okay, the tone, which is reflective, moralistic, and somber. Okay, mood, which is tense, introspective, and ironic. Okay, the last literary device in bed is paradox. The lawyer gains, wisdom and freedom by giving up wealth and rejecting society. I think that's all from us. Thank you. Bye bye.